Peace and blessings, beautiful people. Peace and blessings. This is Empress Imani, and welcome to this episode of Sacred Love Lessons. So today, you guys, we're just going to have a love talk, right? No lesson today, just a love talk. I was looking in my book, Acts of Faith, the 25th edition by Iyanla Vanzant, and I saw this quote: "Heaven is where you will be when you're okay with where you are." Sun Ra. And that just really resonated with me, right? And I was thinking about the topic of heaven and hell, right? So, you guys, I love to read. In case you don't know, I'm an avid reader. I love to read. One book that I used to really enjoy, this was like years ago, was Science of Mind. And Science of Mind, they would publish this, it was like a little booklet, right? And this was back in the 90s. And I still had this one edition. It was from May 1996. And in that book, right, I saw this story about heaven and hell. So I'm going to tell you the story. A man was taken on a tour of heaven and hell. In hell, he saw people seated at long tables laden with food, but the people were thin and hungry, and they looked really sad and very unhappy. They had long spoons tied to each arm, such long spoons that they were unable to feed themselves. Then the man was taken on a tour of heaven. When the man went to heaven, he found people seated at the same tables, right? Laden with food. They too had long spoons tied to each arm, but everyone was well fed and happy. So the man was like, "What's the difference? What happened here?" And the angel told the man, "They fed each other." I thought that story was so amazing, right? So I realized that love plays an important part in life, in the life that we want to live, right? Love is a fundamental element on which everything else is based, right? And when you operate in love and you align your mind with the Most High, you can choose the life you want to live. Now, let me clarify that, because I got some shadow people that I need to address. I'm not talking about living in your shadow. I'm not talking about the shadow man. I'm not talking about going to orgies, and you sleeping with all kind of different type of people and doing all kind of things, and you think no one knows. I read about that in the book Black Mama of Hollywood by Jenifer Lewis. It's a really good book. If you haven't read it, you may want to check it out. But in the book, she talked about how this was during a time where people, HIV was just coming onto the scenes, HIV/AIDS. But people were having like these orgies. They were at Club 54, yada, yada, yada. They were sleeping with a whole bunch of people. And then, when it all came out, people started getting sick. People started dying. They were riddled with anxiety and fear and sickness, right? So I'm not talking about living in your shadow. I'm not talking about being high on drugs where you've borrowed money from anyone that you can think of, and now no one will fool with you. You sold all your personal, belongings and this and that to give to the drug man. You've lost your house and your car fooling with these drugs. I'm not talking about that. I'm not talking about committing crimes where you out here committing mortgage fraud and you're being investigated on a federal level. You've been stealing people's identity and, all of that. I'm not talking about that. I'm not talking about lying where you've been slandering and defaming people and gossiping and all of that. I'm not talking about any activity that originate from the darkness. And those were just some examples, you guys, right? But I'm talking about living in the light, right? Heaven and hell is within you. Now, I grew up fundamentalist Pentecostal, right? And in that, I was taught that heaven was this far off place and the sweet by and by, and hell was this place that they often talked about in Revelations that you go to and you're, the lake of fire and you're going to burn and all of this, right? But what I came to realize in my own experience, my own journey, is that heaven and hell is within you. Heaven is your higher self. It's your God self. Okay? I think we will all agree that part of God lives within us, right? We were made in God's likeness. Part of God lives in us. So if God lives in me, that means I am God, right? And that means that my higher self is my God self. I also know that hell is within me too, right? The shadow side, because there's light and shadow. And hell is your lower nature, right? It's your shadow side. And I'm going to call the shadow side, I'm going to call it the shadow man. Remember that movie, The Princess and the Frog, and the shadow man was in there? I'm going to call the shadow side the shadow man, right? You create your own heaven and hell through your thoughts, your words, your actions, and your energy. Now, when you operate in love and gratitude, you are in heaven. You love life fully and you experience peace and joy, happiness and abundance. I know that's where I am now. I am in heaven, right? I'm experiencing all those things right now. When I wake up every day, I'm very grateful for my life. And every day, throughout the day, multiple times, I'll just blurt out, I love my life. And I do. And then I'll go, thank you, God. Thank you, God. And I love my life. I love everything about it. Now, I'm not going to paint this picture and tell you that I don't have challenges, right? But challenges are just that. They're just challenges. I know that I have the power within me to make a wise choice about any challenge that I'm faced with. I know that whatever this outside force outside of myself, it doesn't take away my peace, my joy, my happiness, my abundance. That comes all from within. And no one, no matter what they do to you, no matter what they say about you, no one can take your heaven away from you. No one can put you in hell. No one, no outside circumstance can do that. You do that to yourself, right? And so when you make unwise choices and you operate in your lower nature, you'll find yourself in hell. Let's go back to some of the examples that I gave. Let's say you on drugs, okay? And if you are, please go get help, right? But let's say you are. And the drug, when you take this drug, you have an out-of-body experience. And then you go to some orgy and you turn up the whole night. You guys, let me give you a sidebar right here. Did you see during COVID in LA, and it wasn't just LA, but in LA, over 200 people were busted at this swingers party. And it's like you have to have sex that bad that you're willing to put your life in danger. And they were, and it just wasn't in LA. Okay, so I don't want people in LA to think I'm picking on you. It was all over. But these people operating in their lower nature and going to these orgies and these swinger parties, right? So let's say you high, right? You high off your ass. You carry yourself down to the swinger party, you know. The next day, guess what? The shadow man, he right there. You still in hell. You wake up, I don't know. I've never been high like that, so I don't know how you feel. But I imagine maybe your head is hurting. Maybe you having withdrawal symptoms. Maybe you itching. Now you the itchy and scratchy show. You don't know who you been with the night before. Now there's this high level of anxiety and fear. Then you get a bad report from the doctor telling you you have an STD that you can't get rid of. Now let's say that's not your story, right? But you still have an STD, a sexually transmitted demon. You done created all these soul ties with people that you slept with the night before, right? On this lower nature, this lower energy while you were in hell. And now you have nightmares at night. You got anxiety. You're feeling fear and paranoia and you don't know why. Part of that is from the STD and the other part is the side effect of the drug, right? And so, or, okay, you're a lady, a female. You turn up pregnant. You slept with so many dudes the night before, you don't know who the daddy is, right? So you got a situation. All of that is hell. All of that, unwise choices that you made. Nobody else made for you. You made those choices. You carried out those actions. You had those thoughts. And you walked around in that lower nature energy in your shadow man, right? So there's no outside force where people say, oh, the devil made me do it. No, you did it. Okay? You did it. And what happens? You find yourself in hell. You experience anxiety, guilt, depression, bad health, nightmares, and misfortune, right? And you think you have this invisible juice like Willie Beamer on any given Sunday, but you're deluded, okay? And that's the side effect of being in hell. You think no one can see you, but we all see you. Those people that are in heaven, we see you. And some of those people that are in hell with you, they see you, okay? You don't have invisible juice. That's an illusion. I remember this story in the Bible, and I'm just going to paraphrase it, right? And I call the Bible the magical book, right? Because it has a lot of amazing stories that are relatable, and it has a lot of power, right, in the Bible. So I call it the magical book. There was this rich guy, and Jesus is out and he's teaching. The rich guy's in the audience, he's listening. So after everything is over, the rich guy, he goes up to Jesus and he's like, "Hey, dude, I really like what you said. I was really resonating with that. I was wondering, how could I get on your team? How could I go with you?" So Jesus said, "Well, first of all, you're going to need to give up all the riches that you got. If you come with me, you got to give it up, all, everything. You can't bring your yacht, your house, your car, your Maybach. You can't bring all those designer shoes and purses and, all that stuff. You can't bring any of that." And so the rich guy, he was like, "What?" He was highly disappointed and saddened by what Jesus told him, and he walked away, right? He missed his moment, an opportunity to go to heaven. Now, let's go through the story a little bit deeper, right? Because this is what I believe the story to be saying. The rich guy went up to Jesus. He was inspired by Jesus. What Jesus said to him resonated with him. He wanted to go. Jesus' response to the guy when he told him about giving up the riches, he didn't mean that literally. He didn't mean that. If you look at the 12 disciples, these people had things going on. Like Matthew was an accountant. Peter was a business owner. These people had lives before they met Jesus. They had wealth and riches. So these were not impoverished people. What Jesus meant when he was talking to the rich guy was saying that you cannot come with me if you are attached. He was talking about the attachment to those things. If you are attached to things, let's talk about attachment for a moment. If you are attached to people, places, things, right, then that is taken away from you. And we've seen this in history where people will then self-destruct, kill themselves, and do all kind of manner of evil, turn to drugs and just start acting out, start committing crimes. Why? Because they're attached to money. They're attached to things. They're attached to the house. And so he was saying, you can come with me, but the attachment you cannot bring. That is what he was saying. Because in heaven, and we all know that, in heaven, there are many mansions. The streets are paved with gold, right? There's many riches, okay? Many riches. Heaven is a rich place. When you live in your heaven within you, then you are able to manifest all those riches that the rich guy had. But if you are greedy, if you're operating in greed and lust, and you have attachments to things, right? External things, or even people, that will cause suffering, and then you will therefore be in hell. That is what Jesus was saying. Again, I reiterate, no one can take you to heaven. You must go on your own. It is by your thoughts, your words, your actions, your energy that takes you to heaven, right? No one can put you in hell. I know when I was growing up, people used to say stuff like, "You going to hell." Well, how would you know? Right? How would you know? And me, I had a serious clapback, right? I was on a lower vibration. I would just tell them, "Well, save me a seat." Implying you going to be there before I do. Okay? So, but now from a place of heaven, I clearly understand that heaven and hell is within you. And I understand that you can't escape hell because you take you everywhere you go. Let me tell you, the shadow man will delude you, right? He will lie to you. He will have you lying to yourself. He will make you think that you are actually getting away with something, right? You done stole, you done lied, you done all kind of manner of evil. And the shadow man will delude you, create this illusion to make you think that you have gotten away with it. But I just want you to go down to the prison, ask all those people who are in prison, right? Rightfully in prison, if they got away. You could just check out that show, American Greed. I used to watch that show years ago. American Greed. All those people running those Ponzi schemes who thought they had gotten away. All that time that Bernie Madoff was doing what he did, at some point, the devil comes to collect. And the illusion is like a rug. It's ripped out from under you. And then everybody can see who you really are, including you. And then you realize you've been in hell the whole time. So I'll leave you with this. We all have choices. Your life is the total sum of the choices that you have made. The choice is yours. Heaven or hell. Choose wisely. I hope this episode has been of value to you. Don't forget to share it, to like it, and come back next week for your weekly dose of sacred love lessons. This is Empress Imani Sankofa. It has been my privilege and my honor to talk to you today. And until we speak again, be the light.